Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Bitcoin as well as the altcoin market seeing a little bit of weakness overnight and throughout the day. So should we be worried? Has the Bitcoin rally topped already? I personally don't think so for a few reasons. However, I think it's very possible we end up dropping a little lower before finding support. And obviously anything is possible. So I want to quickly go over a few things that are on my radar. But Bitcoin and the market in general has done a great job of building support recently. So I don't want to count the bulls down and out quite yet. Guys, we still have the same support that I've been mentioning basically for a week now at this point, basically since, well, when would that have been? Almost a week ago, about 5 days ago, when we got this little warning that we were breaking above the lower sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster on the 4-hour. Now, we've seen a lot of coins do this recently where we end up breaking a lower sell and then holding the buy trend. So far, we're still seeing a little bit of weakness, but it's not like we've lost the buy support or anything like that. Yeah, we've lost the moving average of the current buy trend. And we have, where I have this white line here, we have lost the micro trend higher low on the trend, right? Because we basically had this high and we went a little bit higher, confirming this as our higher low on the trend. And we obviously broke that and seeing some weakness today. So I don't want to be completely oblivious and a total moon boy. Anything is possible. Like I said, we could absolutely just nuke and carry on into a bear market. But honestly, guys, I'm seeing some signs on a few different time frames why I don't think that's necessarily the case. Again, I do think it's possible we end up dropping a little bit lower still, but we are just going to have to see what happens basically. So yeah, basically Trendmaster, like I said, broke the lower sell signal, printed a higher buy signal. So at this point, I just want to, basically I'm using this indicator as a bit of confluence, printing a upward trending market at this time. That can change at any point, but it is what it is for this, for right now. The ALGO master, I'm going to bring this up. I haven't looked at this yet, but let's just see. That's an invalid fib pulse, so not going to worry about that. Auto charting tools. Let's see what kind of interesting pivots we can get. We have lost our weekly open. I don't like to see that. So we're going to have to see if we can reclaim that and continue to the upside. But we are just going to have to see, you guys. Also, like I said, breaking that lower sell signal also was a confirmed lower high with the auto charting tools indicator. So again, just a confirmation that we did at least break some sort of important structure with a couple of indicators backing that theory up. And guys, for those of you interested in seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at the market, some of my trade setups, strategies, and overall thoughts on the market, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen to gain access to my Telegram channel, you guys. I did mention this hype long, basically a couple days ago on stream. I said I was going to be looking for a long position there and letting VIPs know how I was handling that. And that's what I did. And I'm actually happy to inform you guys that I did end up closing some more, or locking in some more profits rather, before the big dump started happening here, just because, like I said, leaving half running for now, just want to pay myself in case this weakness turns into anything serious. And that's kind of what happened today. So again, just letting my Telegram members know what my plan is there. So as it stands today, I am also in a bit of a Bitcoin scalp, currently sitting in a little bit of a negative percentage. However, I did hit my first target of 91.7K. I was mentioning to, again, in the Telegram channel, that basically what I was looking at here, and it was high risk because we do have the lower trending sell signals on the 5-minute, a very strong downtrend here throughout the day. However, I was looking at a bit of a swing fail here. So although I was looking at it as a high risk setup, basically my invalidation was so tight that I was willing to stab at it. I did mention that my invalidation for me, I was leaving a little extra wiggle room. So I was, my stop loss was just below 90.6K, which is what I told members as well. And we got very close, but still hanging on for now. We'll see what happens with that. But like I said, I ended up I was looking at my 786 basically as my first target. Normally I look for my 0.5 fib target on a typical STUBER setup. But the fact that we dropped this low, even though it's a bit of a swing fail, just the fact that we pushed lower, I bring my targets a little bit closer. So I closed about a third of it at 91.7K. My next targets are still 92.5K and 93.2K, I believe is what my target is set at. But yeah, so far we're just going to have to see what happens. Looking at the 4 hour, the fact that we also are getting close to this old resistance, which could end up flipping into support. But guys, possibly what I'm most bullish on with Bitcoin right now is the weekly chart. And you guys know that this is the one that I've been very bearish about when we were basically at all-time highs, when we were at about 125K. This is where I was having my big issues. Right now, I do see some signs of life from the bulls, which I love to see. I don't necessarily think we're going to new all-time highs. I don't think we are going absolutely parabolic and hitting some of those crazy targets that a lot of people are calling for, just like they do every cycle. But what I do love to see is the RSI. So first of all, the fact that we came back to a nice fib pocket, right? If I pull a fib from low to high here, although it's not an ideal STUBER fib setup just because we lost a micro one, but this was a 786, 886 fib pocket in general. And the fact that we're wicking into it, but holding the candle bodies above that, that is a sign of strength for me. And not only that, when I zoom into the RSI, this is the part that's really getting me right now, is the RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. And you can see the strength in the market right now is significantly higher than it was a month ago when we were fighting with the same resistance. So yeah, obviously we have seen a bit of a rejection from that same resistance level, but we have the RSI climbing significantly higher. So this just could be an early warning sign that we are going to break out through this resistance here. So that is keeping me quite bullish on the market right now, at least for the midterm. Like I said, short term, we could pull back. And honestly, anything is possible. We could just absolutely nuke through this floor and just consider this a massive bear flag, right? That all of these things are possible. But the fact that we see the strength climbing, it's just a bit of a divergence that I like to see. And just to kind of show you what I mean, here's where we had our bearish example, is that where we had our RSI right here. Notice that when we basically down here, the RSI dropped lower than that, even though the price was basically holding that same support, but it was an early warning sign that, hey, with that bearish divergence, the strength is dropping as we're trading sideways. That was a bit of a warning that the bears were taking control. And right now I'm kind of looking at it as the opposite, that the bulls look like they're gaining control, even though we're just trading sideways at this point. So this right here on the weekly, I'm excited to see that. It's good to see those signs of life. And as well, something that I want to mention is that the weekly candle close that we had on Sunday evening, even though we never closed, a big engulfing above our wicks for that resistance level I was mentioning, we did at least close the candle body above the previous candle bodies. And so far, we are basically using that as support. We'll see if that ends up holding or not. But, just some nice signs of life from the bulls, a breath of fresh air. Finally, STUBER went for a little nap. He's sitting on the sidelines for now. Not that I'm totally oblivious and think that it's impossible that we drop lower. I'm just more interested in looking for those bullish setups at this point, especially with altcoins. As I was mentioning with Bitcoin, possibly dropping down towards 88K on the CME futures. You can see that we do have a couple of gaps that haven't filled yet. These do not have to fill. Everybody thinks that they have to. Generally speaking, they do, but they don't have to. And we also don't know how that's going to happen, right? I mean, we could do something like this and then come down and fill it, right? Like, we have no idea how it's going to happen. We just know that there is some gaps down there, and to close it, that would be right around that 88K level. So I still think that it is possible that we drop down to those levels. Also, looking at the MDX retail long short indicator, you can see that retail got very excited at resistance and started longing the shit out of it at resistance. And then you see that that's perfect liquidity for market makers to end up rejecting the price. But as I've seen on social media quite a bit, and through different groups I'm in and that sort of thing, a lot of people are very quick to flip bearish right now. Whereas before on the downtrend, everyone was very quick to flip bullish as soon as we saw any buying relief. Now I'm kind of seeing things a little bit the opposite, that people are getting very antsy and not really trusting the rally. So I would not be too surprised to see retail shorts start stepping in the next couple of days. Obviously, we'll have to see. And as long as we hold these lows, I mean, then at least this structure isn't broken, right? At least we so far are still holding that support around 80,000 US dollars. It's actually closer to 80.7K on this chart anyways. But if we start dropping towards those support levels, I would expect retails to start shorting into that support very aggressively. So something to watch for there. Something that I'm very bullish on with the market in general, like I was saying with altcoins specifically, I've been mentioning this in the last several streams, just the fact that the MDX Trendmaster indicator on the daily time frame has started printing lower sell signals, and that is the first time that we have seen that in over 3 years. So that is a very serious potential trend shift on Bitcoin dominance. And if Bitcoin dominance starts dropping off a cliff, generally speaking, that's a good sign for the altcoin market, especially if, you know, the market doesn't get completely spooked and full on panic mode. As long as Bitcoin can kind of trade in a healthy sideways range or slowly grind down, slowly grind up, basically anything other than nuking. As long if Bitcoin can remain somewhat healthy and the Bitcoin dominance starts rolling over here, which it looks like it is, right? Even though we got that higher buy, we just printed another lower sell. So that's a big sign on my radar and why I'm interested in trading altcoins just moving forward, and specifically hype. This is one that I've talked about in the past few streams. This is the one that, like I said, I shared my long with VIPs, and basically same thing, right? The fact that we ended up breaking the lower sell signal reversal point here and printed, well, basically double bottom buy signal. Either way, the fact that we ended up breaking the lower sell, I take that as a huge sign of strength. And to come back and retest the purple buy trend, that's really nothing too crazy to me. That's just breaking a level and coming back and retesting, in my opinion. Not only that, but let's just get rid of the indicator and look at structure. The microstructure on the 4-hour chart is, notice that we were just setting little higher highs. And that means in this case, the last two highs would be, this was our high, this is our higher high. This wick down here is the confirmed higher low on the micro 4-hour trend. So just this immediate trend from where we bottomed here. And that's my yellow line here. And notice that that's exactly where these candles firmly planted their footing, got our candle bodies closing perfectly on that level. And so far we are seeing a bit of a bounce there. And again, Trendmaster just below that level with another little bit of support there. And we're seeing this kind of structure and confluence from the indicators on several different coins, right? I was talking about this on Sui about a week ago or so. And one of the reasons why I took along there is because, again, guys, we broke a lower sell signal. And this was a very strong trend of printing lower sell signals for quite some time. So I take that reversal quite serious. And so far, that is playing out fantastic. Ethereum, we did hit my 214 fib target. So to see a little bit of a pullback after that, not too crazy to see that either. I don't like that we had this high and a slightly higher high. Therefore, just like Bitcoin, we did lose that micro trend on the 4-hour. However, once again, we have now on Ethereum, we actually have higher trending sell signals and higher trending buy signals. So to come back and test the support of that indicator, I'm really not too worried about it at this point yet. Jupiter, very much the same thing. So again, notice we end up breaking that lower sell signal. We end up flipping that resistance into support perfectly and got an absolutely beautiful run from there. So again, just seeing this across the market on so many different trading pairs. AVAX, same thing, higher trending buy signals, holding that support right now. So basically, the gist of it is this. Yes, we have seen some weakness today and last night, but we are now starting to get to some of those support levels on the midterm. So I don't really want to count the bulls as down and out at this point. Yes, there's a little bit of weakness. I would love to see us go parabolic and love to see us get some massive breakout, but breaking some levels and coming back and testing support isn't anything that's all too concerning to me at this point. Solana, same thing. I mentioned that, this resistance level, not even using indicators, just looking at basic market structure for what it is. Here's our low. Here's our lower low. This is our confirmed lower high at 147. And recently came and perfectly filled the STUBER fib box right up to the 886 and seeing a bit of a rejection there. Haven't quite hit the first target there, and I'm not in a short position. Like I said, I'm not all that interested in shorting the market right now, but worth mentioning that, there could be some further downside there. And Solana is one of the few coins that I do see the structure looking like this, with still having the low, lower low, confirmed lower high. I still feel like it would move the general direction of the market just like it has been. It's just interesting that the structure is slightly different there. Zcash, I was mentioning this one yesterday, that it was looking weaker than most, in my opinion. But again, we do have, even though we have since that printed another sell signal, and we are still seeing weakness, just dropping another level, right? The fact that we have this low and now a lower low, we can now move my confirmed lower high to the highest point between those two, and that would be right here at this wick. So Zcash, although it's been on a massive parabolic run on the longer time frames, as far as the midterm goes, it's looking a little weaker than the rest of the market, in my opinion. But if it's proven anything in the last several months, I mean, anything is possible, and this thing could shut my mouth real quick and just start going parabolic again, right? So something worth mentioning there. Guys, if you do like my realistic approach and trying to be the voice of reason in this market, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those of you who are interested in trading purely based on charts rather than the hopium fundamentals, and also the FUD fundamentals, right? Just looking at charts for what they are. Yeah, I'm paying attention to fundamentals a little bit, but unless the charts actually back them up, then I'm really not all too concerned about them. And honestly, just in general, I wouldn't trade fundamentals myself. I will consider fundamentals when it comes to my investments and my spot positions, for example. But when it comes to actually leverage trading, I would never do it without charts, basically. So that is what this channel is all about, trading the charts for what they are. So if you appreciate that, hit that like button. Goes a long way for a small channel like myself. Let me know in the chat how you guys feel about the market. Do you think that we are about to go to new all-time highs? Do you think that we are nuking to the abyss? What are your opinions out there, my friends? Fantastic explanation of the RSI. Thank you, Gravy Train. Love the feedback, and that's exactly it, right? Think about the RSI for what it is: relative strength index. It's not so much, so many people, and here's one thing I actually want to touch on this, you guys, is that a lot of people will trade specifically on the RSI. Hey, it's overbought, it's time to short. Hey, it's oversold, it's time to long. That is not how the RSI works, at least in my opinion. If you do that, you are going to get wrecked. The RSI is one of my favorite indicators as far as free indicators go. Like before I started using the MDX ALGO indicators, the RSI was my favorite indicator before that. It's very easy to use, but it's also very, very easy to use incorrectly. And that's why I like looking for specific divergences and look at basically what the strength is telling me while the market's trading at similar levels, rather than just saying that, hey, it's overbought, we need to correct to the downside. I mean, so many times, basically in any bull market, when you look at the longer time frames, as soon as we go overbought, that's really when the run really kicks into high gear, right? This is where we ended up going overbought. So if you were considering that, hey, this needs to be the top because the RSI is in overbought territory, that's just not a good way to trade, because the thing is, with the relative strength index, with the RSI, that it is what it is, right? It is the strength of the market. So yes, if let's say we were in a nasty downtrend and we end up hitting the overbought levels, then sure, it's probably overbought. But when we start an uptrend like this and then we go overbought, that's just showing that there's a shit ton of buying pressure and there's a lot of strength in the markets at that point. And it's when we start getting the divergences that we need to start paying attention to it more closely, right? Something like that, big old divergence. And yeah, we ended up seeing a bit of a correction just because we are trading sideways at the same resistance level with significantly less strength, right? So yeah, worth bringing that one up. I love using the RSI for that kind of thing. And again, on the weekly, that little signal right there is one of the main reasons why I am midterm bullish right now. I still personally believe that the top is in for Bitcoin this cycle. Happy to be wrong about that, but that doesn't mean that we won't see bullish price action and beautiful opportunities to the upside. Like I said, especially with altcoins, because generally speaking, altcoin season doesn't happen until Bitcoin has found its top for the cycle. So to see Bitcoin like this, and if it has topped and we have the Bitcoin dominance dropping off a cliff, trending to the downside for the next several months, that would be a huge green light for the altcoin market. I just want to take a look at hype on the 5 minute. Nice to see that we are getting this little bounce here. Love to see it. Position hanging on for now. We do technically still have lower trending sell signals and lower trending buy signals, so that is worth considering. We are still fighting the trend by trying to play to the upside, so just understand that trying to play the long side right now is a little bit dangerous. But again, I just think that when I look at the 4 hour on so many different charts, we just have the same thing happening. So many things lining up with midterm resistance or support rather. So like I said, I don't want to get too bearish at this point, but I also don't want to toss all of my analysis out the window and just pretend we're going straight to the moon, because typically speaking, the price action is going to chop around sideways a bunch. There's going to be plenty of opportunities in both directions, no matter which direction this market is actually heading. And that's exactly why we follow the charts and play them one trade setup at a time. Stu, I know you're leaning bullish, but today there were opportunities to short things based on pure structure like Sol, for example. Absolutely. That's the thing is, just because I'm bullish doesn't mean that, there isn't short opportunity, especially on lower time frames. It's just that I'm not desperate to find a short right now. I did plenty of shorting the last 3 months. And at this point, I'm willing to kind of take a little bit of a break from that, just with how structure is right now. That being said, I have a few trading bots that caught some shorts today. My bots caught a short on AVAX, Ethereum, Cake, Arrow, and FET. So I am covered to the downside a little bit as well. So I'm really not too worried about it. I'm just personally not looking at manually trading the short side of things right now, just because too many things are at the 4 hour support. But yeah, absolutely, there was reasons to take a short if that's something that someone wanted to do. For example, let's just say right here, for example, not even catching the top, right? Even right here, this structure break here alone, that was reason enough to take some sort of a scalp short because we lost some sort of a micro high or low, right? But let's say looking at this indicator, for example, lower trending sell signals, boom, beautiful play. Let's say not using indicators, and obviously this is hype on the 5 minute. Let's just say looking at basic market structure, let's say you missed the reversal, but then you end up seeing that, hey, we have a low, we have a lower low, let's pull a fib, something like this. And okay, well, that one was front run a little bit. I thought with my naked eye there, I was seeing a 786, but not quite. But yeah, obviously, as you set lower lows, then you can start looking to ladder into shorts on the retest of resistance kind of a thing. So yeah, there is obviously always opportunities to both sides. And that's the thing. If I'm mostly playing the long side, someone else could be playing the short side. we could literally take the positions at the exact same time in the exact opposite directions, and we could both win our trades. We could both lose our trades. At the end of the day, analysis is just that's our vehicle to the actual position, right? Execution is what really matters in the game of trading. So yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people who caught some beautiful shorts. I hope some of you guys caught some beautiful shorts. Pippin, I can take a look at Pippin. Just give me a sec here. Stu, when you did the micro analysis on the 4 hour, do you use need 3 candles, or will you use the low wick on the same candle that showed a higher high? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I personally don't need 3 candles, but I don't see a higher high at all here. Like just the fact that we got this red candle and just paused, got some sort of consolidation there, because then obviously on the shorter time frame it would actually be a lot more reasonable looking. But yeah, just the fact that there was this little pause here and then we shot up higher, so therefore lowest point between the two is where that red candle bottomed out, and then lower low, that confirms basically that confirms that as our pivot, and then another lower low, which now confirms this as our lower high just above the daily open there. Can I take a 30-second look at Pippin? Yes. What time frame and what exchange is that on BloFin? And is it a leverage pair? It is. All right, let's see. I've never looked at this in my life, so let's see what we got. The 4 hour, we have what looks to be like a downtrend started. Just the fact that we ended up printing a lower sell signal. Let's make that blue just so it matches up. As well, our higher buy signal that was on the trend. This is where our pivot would have been, and we obviously lost that level. And that old support is actually lining up with resistance of the 4 hour MDX Trendmaster, which again has that lower sell signal here. As well, if we want to basically look at this as our higher low structure on the trend, this thing's a little messy and pretty big wicks here, but this would have been our high. This is our higher high, confirmed higher low, and we have recently broke that as well. With that one, the thing is with that one, with that structure break there, technically you could still get a retest of the highs of the range, a STUBER fib, something like that, way up at 63 cents, which is what, a 200% move, something like that. Not saying, or 120%, whatever. Not saying that we have to go up there, but it's absolutely a possibility. But at this point, with the lower sell signal, I would actually consider our main resistance on the 4 hour here at about 51 cents. That's kind of what I would be looking at there. But again, there's more resistance along the way, because on the micro trend, this would have been our low, lower low, confirm lower high, which also happens to line up with MDX Trendmaster and that old support flipping into new resistance here. So there's a few concerning things on that chart to me. Like I said, I've never looked at it before, but just looking at it for what it is at a quick glance like that, that's what I am seeing. We do have, so notice that bullish one that I pointed out, the high and the higher high. The ALGO Master does currently have a bullish fib pulled there. So, I mean, this could technically be a swing fail, right? The fact that we end up dropping this support but reclaiming it very quickly. if we end up dropping support around 18 cents, I would have some serious concerns about that. Bitcoin trying to gain some footing. Guys, for the last several hours, we've just been kind of chopping around sideways. Nothing too exciting happening in the last few hours. Hype, same thing. Nice to see that little pump, but we'll see what ends up happening on the trend here. But yeah, like I said, guys, obviously anything can happen in the charts. Anything can happen in this market. But at this point, there's just a lot of things giving me signs that I think that we are due for some sort of a mid time frame rally. Like I said, I don't really think we're going to all-time highs for Bitcoin or going absolutely parabolic to some of those crazy targets. But I wouldn't be too surprised to see some sort of even a dead cat bounce. Whereas right now we're trying to find some support, but really in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the weekly chart, it obviously takes a long time to play out. If we are going to end up hitting some of my targets like 100, 103K, or even the macro resistances starting at about 116K, obviously if we're going to end up hitting those levels, I would expect it to take a month or two to play out, not a day or two to play out. So this little rally here, seeing a little bit of a rejection today, I'm just not all too concerned about it yet. Aster 4-hour. I will take a look at Aster. That is one that I have not taken a trade on in a while. I'm actually going to remove everything because I haven't looked at it in a while. We do have a buy signal. I mean, this could go for Bitcoin and a bunch of altcoins. I don't feel like there's anything super clear really quickly here, other than the fact that we do have MDX Trendmaster potential support just below us again. But I wouldn't be all too surprised to see us do some sort of a pullback all the way to the STUBER fibs. That being said, if I look at, it's possible that we're going to find support somewhere in here. I personally don't have a strong read on that at this point. To me, it looks like we broke some resistance. And possibly flipping that resistance into support. We already respected it once. So if we come down a little lower, also it lines up with that indicator confluence. So we'll have to see what happens there. My coins of interest right now, honestly, hype is the one that I'm mostly hyped to trade right now, just because I think it's a little bit behind some of the other coins that have moved well from breaking that lower sell signal. I think that we could see that turning into a beautiful trend here. So very interested in just finding more lower time frame pullbacks to long with something like hype. Anyways, my friends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And just a reminder for those of you who are interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, how I use Fibonacci's and market structure, and just give more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. And with that, I'm out. Thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. Stay safe, my friends. Peace out.